We as realtors wear many hats, and the same realtor can wear the same hat, a different hat in the transaction. Also, as I said earlier on another episode, whenever Laura Beth was talking about contingencies, and she was going to be the buyer's agent for the house that she was listing. So it can get a little confusing, and this is why we want to clarify all of the myths and myths of signature properties about buyer agents. So, Laura Beth, you are a queen buyer's agent. Tell us your secret.
I mean, be who you are, basically. No. So I am very much, again, I know I've said this before, but what you see is what you get. So when I'm talking to my buyers, so I basically start out the conversation with, I hate the new rules. I hate the new rules. I hate the new rules.
What rules are you talking about?
So yes, that's true. So NAR back in, August, July, somewhere in there. Anyways, back in August or July of 2024, the NAR settlement.
The National Association of
Realtors, yes, the National Association of Realtors settlement, all of that happened. So basically we've had buyer agency for years, like ever. Anyways, but not everybody has, like most of the northern states have not had buyer's agency. So we kind of are doing the same thing that we've been doing, except we now have to have buyer's agency before we even set foot in a house. So part of the NAR settlement was that buyer's agency is now negotiable, which again, for us, it always kind of has been, but we've always had buyer agency. So that didn't really change.
We refer to our employment
agreement. Right. The agency agreement. Yes. So we have to have that before we walk into the house now. And so when I first am talking to buyers, first time, whether I've met them or whether it's like the first time we're talking on the phone, anything, I'm like, look, I was never one to do this, but we have to have buyer agency before we walk into the house.
So buyer agency is, by definition, it's our formal agreement that talks about our duties and responsibilities when we're working with buyers.
Yes.
And it does talk about, who's paying what in the transaction.
Right.
But I think that what you were talking about earlier was that things change.
Mm-hmm.
In North Carolina, we've had buyer agency
for years. Yeah.
And so we have clearly defined the role in North Carolina of what we do for years and years. Not every state has been like that. So what changed for us in August was that we now have to agree to that we're working together.
Right.
Used to, we could go on a couple dates.
We could. I was one that I never had my people sign anything until we were putting in an offer.
Except for the working.
Except for the W. Yes. But like, the actual agency agreement, I didn't have them sign until we were putting in an offer because I like to trust my people. That may have screwed me in the end, but I'm very much one of, again, what you see is what you get. So like they generally, not trying to toot my own horn, people generally fell in love with that, like they love my honesty. They didn't ever really want to leave once they met me, so I trusted my people, and I still do that, but we have to do it differently now.
Do you offer an opt-out clause?
So my opt-out clause is that I like to think of myself as being fairly easy to work with, and it's a lot easier to sign termination paperwork than it is to continually re-up the agency agreement. So I'm like, look, if you decide to hate me down the road, just tell me. We'll figure it out. We'll terminate, whatever, but it is more protection on them to go ahead, because I usually do my agency agreements out for about 6 months, and it's more protection on them to go ahead and have it than doing like a 1 day or something like that, which I'd still be under agency with them and would still have all of the same like disclosure, whatever. But anyways, it's just easier.
So like perhaps you get a call. Say that I got a call on a listing, and I said, "Can you please go show this, Laura?"
Mm-hmm.
And so then you would meet them at the house and have conversation to go over what your responsibility in representing them in that house would be. And you would actually have to sign a document that ties you to that person
Absolutely.
for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And also it does protect you because if they were to also make the phone call, I was just watching a Sex and the City episode last night about how Samantha loves real estate and she was not monogamous
Mm-hmm.
with her realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And her original realtor walked in on her looking at a house with her other realtor.
Oh.
And, they don't have buyer agency.
Right.
And so I think she ended up buying this house and the original realtor was not the one who got to represent Samantha.
Right.
Now we have buyer agency. And so it kind of protects that relationship.
Different buyer agency.
It's a different one.
Yes.
Justin, you seem to be very thorough with your descriptions and how you work with buyers. What's some of the things that you cover when you're talking about buyer agency?
I think the main thing in going in with him is laying out that these changes that we've had are nationwide, that it's in the protection of the consumer. I also very frank in saying North Carolina has had buyer agency for years. And so, in essence, especially for the people that grew up here, especially if they've bought homes around here, there is essentially no change, with the exception being we just have to have this, forward now instead of doing it
On the back piece.
at a later point. And then also, I very much lead with an opt-out clause and say, hey, I do sort of like preset this for a time period, but if you want to change this after this one house, we can do that. All I need is, just something in writing, and then we will terminate in that respect. And then again, just walk through it and just simply say, this is, here's what this is how it impacts you. Here's what this is how it impacts you. I mean, you can normally knock it out in 10 minutes and then you're in the house and there is, they're on their way. New forms and everything that we have for this year, it makes it a whole lot simpler to, you have 3 pages?
Yay, 3 pages.
Instead of 40 pages that you're walking through. Makes it a whole lot easier, especially if it's, 19 degrees outside or 85 degrees and you're sweating on a front porch. So, but again, as long as you're like upfront with people and explain to them how the impact is on them and what the benefit is for them, then, all the reception has been fantastic. I've not had any pushback from it.
So when we were in real estate school, there was an acronym called OCAR.
Oh, yes.
I bet Austin knows the words to OCAR. And OCAR is the acronym that talks about. What our duties and responsibilities are. Come on,
All right, so obedience, that one?
Yeah.
O-L, loyalty. D, disclosure, maybe.
I think so.
I think so.
C,
Confidentiality.
Confidentiality.
A would be. You want to know the
Agency? And no.
You don't know what the A is?
I think Allison's looking it up.
It's
It is agency. Okay. I've got it in my notes somewhere. Right. It's been a hot minute for all of us.
This has been a lot of
I know about the golden rule. Just treat people like them.
Right. Exactly.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the R is either. Do you know what the R is?
Obedience, loyalty, disclosure,
Yeah.
confidentiality,
Yep.
accountability, reasonable care, diligence. I know, Henry. Yeah.
Right, and if you treat people like they want to be, like you want to be treated, you're going to check all those anyway, for the most part.
Good point, Candy, because it says, in summary, you call the shot. However, in order for you to get the best out of your realtor, it's important for you to listen to their professional advice and consider all facts before making home decisions or selling decisions.
Yep.
And you should have mutual respect for each other's times and goals.
Yes.
I always like to think of it the way that the North Carolina, what is it, the Real Estate Commission of North Carolina says, is that we follow our clients' legal commands, right? I like to always think of it that way.
Yeah.
Those are lawful orders. Those are the things that we kind of guide us. As long as it's legal to do so from our client's direction. we'll do it.
For the consumer who does not know what buyer agency is, Austin, I think you're great at explaining things. Let's talk about working with real estate agents here. Maybe we should have led with that in the very beginning.
Probably so, because that is the most important thing.
That is the most important part.
Okay, so upon first, what is it? What do they call it? First substantial contact. Which can be any, whether you're talking about means of purchasing, your desires to purchase, whatever, that would be first substantial contact. And you're supposed to have a client sign a work with real estate agent brochure, which, I guess just a form now. It's not really a brochure. They don't even make
It's a disclosure.
brochures anymore.
I think they do, but it's
Yeah.
one pager now.
Right.
But, and there's a few, little items here that kind of briefly describe the different types of agency and relationships you can have. Whether it be on the seller side or the buyer side. If you're on the buyer side, it can discuss, buyer agency, dual agency, designated dual agency, or there's even a box for an unrepresented buyer. And it just explains what each one of those kind of mean. Buyer agency would kind of go into everything we just talked about right there. Dual agency could be agent to agent, me representing both buyer and seller, or it could be or it could be also within the firm. It could be Justin representing the seller and me representing a buyer, and that would be a kind of form of designated dual agency as well.
Dual agency gives Renee heartburn.
Same agent, dual agency is kind of a
Yeah.
yeah. I can't think of a situation that's good.
Well, I can. I mean, I think that there's always a special instance. If you've got I mean, Justin, you work with a lot of investors, and if someone, if your client is well informed, maybe they have a legal background, maybe they've got prior knowledge of it, and the only way to get to the table is to only have you involved. I mean, it's obviously, we'll go on record saying that's not best.
That's when your vet could step in.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So why not just have one side unrepresented or have another side represented?
Right.
Somebody else?
That's partially.
We've done some stuff like that before, but one side was just unrepresented.
Right.
And they knew that, hey, we're not represented.
Right. I feel very strongly, though, that you always need somebody in your corner. So whether, the seller needs their listing agent firmly in their corner, on their side, and then the buyer needs their buyer's agent there representing them and their full interest. And so everybody has somebody on their side and is bringing them both to the closing table.
That's kind of why I like listing with somebody like Justin and I list together quite a bit. And it's, if he has someone that comes in that loves, one of his buyers loves our listing, like he could back out and I could still represent the seller, and then we'd give the buyer to one of y'all or something, so that then everybody is still being represented in its dual agency, but it's designated dual agency. So it's not as whatever, and vice versa. If my people came in, I'd back out and he'd, so.
We don't do that.
What?
On our end. We usually we are
Usually we have
listening
like
together.
yeah.
We just stay with them.
But I think certain circumstances can make it okay. But
I'm
usually we both,
pondering that.
yeah. But usually it's because we both have met with the seller. We both have really good inside knowledge of the seller.
Yeah. Well,
In
that's
some
fun.
situations that may not be the case.
And that's why I'm saying, like, I'd back out. Like, if it were my people, my buyers that came in, I'd just completely back out of the deal. He'd take care of the sellers, and then we'd give the buyers 20 y'all.
Right.
So, like, then our sellers still feel like they have somebody that knows everything coming in or staying with them,
I mean, I've represented both sides of a transaction before, and I went to my broker in charge, and before any of this even got anywhere close to the paperwork side, and like, hey, look, it seems like this is heading this direction. Is this okay? What's my best route to like navigate this? And I mean, he was very forward in saying, this is the way that you should go about it. From the paperwork side, from like the advice side that you can and cannot give. And I mean, I, in many respects, sort of like really leaned leaned on him in that transaction. I mean, we went flawless through the entire thing.
Was it easy for you to be neutral? To agency?
It was much more challenging than you would think, because I mean, you feel a loyalty toward the person that first contacted you and got you involved here,
Right.
but maintaining that neutrality was, I mean, it was a lot more difficult than you would think, but by no means impossible.
Well, thank you again for joining us on this episode of Seven's Lot. And the next one, we're going to have a special guest. Her name is Amy Tarr. She's a lender, and she has been with us. She's been with me since the very beginning, and we're excited to bring her on to answer